Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim R. Today's episode 215, and we're going to be interviewing Megan. How you doing this morning, Megan?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, and everybody else watching.
Yeah, absolutely. To everyone watching. Did you do anything fun last night?
I did not. I stayed, and I have a friend over right now.
Oh, that's good. So you hung out with your friend. That's good. So let's get started here. Tell me about your childhood and growing up. What was that like?
Well, I was born here in Salt Lake City in the late 80s. I was born into a blended family. So my mom had two children before she met my dad, and my mom and dad had four children together, and I'm the second youngest and the only daughter out of all of them combined. Um, my father was an alcoholic, and my mom is a codependent to an alcoholic. So I grew up very neglected, very ignored, very unwanted. I felt unwanted anyway. So it was rough being an only daughter with all boys and all of them older than me but one. Um,
Were there anything specific things they would do that made you feel unwanted?
um, so I was sexually abused within my family by my paternal grandfather and my half brother and a biological brother. So yeah, it I tried to tell my parents about it and I was called a liar basically. So that's where I was 11 and that's where I felt unwanted and that nobody cared.
That must have been a difficult thing to face.
Yeah. And yeah, so I was taken away from home at 12 years old, a couple months after that happened. And I grew up in foster care and I aged out at 18 because my parents left me there.
How was foster care? I mean,
It was rough. I shuffled from because I couldn't behave outside of residential treatment. So I spent a good portion of those years in residential treatment.
treatment for what?
Behavioral problems. I
Okay.
using drugs. I was acting out in several different ways. I was drinking and trying to find ways to cope, self harming. I did everything I could to try to escape the pain that I was feeling.
What kind of things would you do to self-harm?
I mostly cut and burned myself.
Burned, you said?
Yeah.
Uh, it's a shame the things we go through and what we do to try and avoid the pain.
Yep. And then I aged out at 18 and I was just kind of tossed to the street, like to figure it out on my own. So, and that's where my drug addiction and alcohol addiction spiraled out of control. So that was the only thing I had to cope. And here I am today.
When was the first time you ever used anything?
Um, I was 12 and I had smoked pot and drank all in the same night.
In 12 years old.
Yeah, 12 years old. It
Who
was
would,
I was being groomed by an older man, so he gave it to me.
and when you say groomed, you mean to be taken
He
advantage of?
Yeah, I was taken advantage of once I had gotten drunk and high enough.
Yes, that's a terrible thing to hear. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. It's made me a very, very strong person that I am today. So I got clean and sober when I was 25. So, or wait, sorry, 24. So I've been clean for 10 years now.
Okay. Well, going back to just to go back a little bit. So the first time you were using, you were being groomed. Do you remember how long you were using for? Like, when did it become a habit to you?
It became a habit when I got into foster care. When I would run away from the homes, I would just use whoever, like the girls I would run with, they would take me to houses and we would get high with other guys or other people and we would drink. And I'd say so that's when it really became a habit.
What kind of stuff? It was drinking and marijuana and things like that, you said?
Yeah, and crack cocaine and methamphetamine. I experimented in just about everything, but alcohol was mostly my drug of choice.
What kind of alcohol would you drink?
I was drinking liquor.
So did you have any good memories from childhood? I mean, is there
No,
any, I mean, no, nothing good?
no, not really. I remember a trip that we took as a family when I was like 9. We went to Idaho, and that's probably the only positive memory I have of childhood.
Was mom around?
Yes and no. Both of my parents were physically there, but emotionally absent, if that makes sense.
It
They
does.
were so, my mom was so wrapped up in taking care of my alcoholic father that she ignored her children. And my dad was so wrapped up in his alcoholism that we didn't matter, that we weren't a priority. So they were kind of just enmeshed with each other.
And children came second, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, actually, third, because my mom was very, so it was either my mom, she needed to have her way, or everybody was miserable. My mom was very, very controlling. Things had to go her way. And it's still kind of like that today. Like, I don't really have much of a relationship with her, but yeah. So my mom's very, I want to say she's codependent. She's also very, has some narcissistic tendencies about her as well.
What kind of things would she show to be narcissistic about?
So when you, let's take modern day for instance, I've tried to talk to her about the abuse and tell her how I felt and how I felt neglected, and she goes, well, you were not the only victim, and this is what happened to me, so for me, I'm the victim, not you.
Why she claims similar stuff happened to her?
Yeah.
Was it also by your grandfather to her?
No, it was by her brother, and my mom was groomed at 14 years old by a man in his 40s, and he had gotten her pregnant. So that's where my oldest half brother came from.
And your mom was 14. Wow.
Oh, actually, she was 13 and gave birth to him at 14.
That's scary.
Yeah. So there's a lot of intergenerational trauma in my family on both sides.
So is there anything that you can think of that fueled your addiction once you started doing it, once you kind of got more familiar with drugs and alcohol? Is there anything that made you continue using that you can think of?
The anxiety I felt, the nightmares, the anger that I felt toward people. Um, I remember just feeling really, really lousy about myself, that I didn't matter, that I was only put on earth for just one thing, and that was for the use of men. That has that had always been a dominant belief in my life. And so anytime a relationship went sour with a man, anytime he used and abused me, that was a trigger to use. Um, yeah, general all around rejection was also a trigger for me. And I can't really think of anything else. Anything that stressed me out, really. I just remember it was always an excuse. Oh, I had a bad day. Oh, I'm going to get drunk. Oh, it's Friday. I'm going to get drunk. Oh, so and so broke up with me. I'm going to get drunk. So and so cheated on me. I'm going to get high. It was always, even for good positive things too, I had to be high because it made me feel quote unquote normal. Like I felt like somebody else, not somebody who was always down and depressed all the time.
Hmm. Did you have a lot of depression?
Yeah. My dad died while I was in foster care, and I
How old were
remember
you?
I was 15 and I was in juvenile detention because of some crimes that I had committed. And I remember them coming and telling me my dad died, and all I said was, so I didn't cry. I didn't cry until I was in my 20s about it. So I think a lot of that drug use and everything, I repressed that, the feelings and anger that I had for him. That was another reason because I didn't want to feel that. I felt guilty for not feeling bad, if that makes sense.
No, that can make, yeah, that makes sense.
So my anger, the anger, everything I had inside wouldn't let me feel for him. It wouldn't let me cry. It wouldn't let me feel sorry. It wouldn't let me have sympathy or empathy. It was just so, that was the only thing that came out of my mouth about it. And I didn't go to the funeral. I didn't do anything with that.
Yeah, I'm the same way with my dad. We don't have a great relationship.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's rough. And my mom, to this day, we do not have a relationship either because she continues to play the victim. And I choose not to take part in that. It's just too toxic for me. And I just don't want to deal with it.
So at what point did you realize that your addiction was going downhill fast?
Um, when I found myself in jail over 50 times.
50
It,
times.
yeah, for various things. All the time. I went to jail for just about everything, whether it be fighting. I think it was everything but stealing and killing somebody. It was usually fighting, violating my probation. I was on probation most of my adult life up until that point. Relapsing. Yeah. And I found out I was actually pregnant in jail with my youngest daughter. So that's where I chose to quit. I sat in the Salt Lake County jail and thought to myself, and I had done it at least 50 other times. And there, it's going to be different when I walk out those doors. I'm not going to use. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But as soon as I got away from the jail, that little voice spoke to me and said, "Oh, you're free. You can do whatever you want." But this last time it was different. It's because I had a human in my body. And I was tired, to be honest with you. I was tired of running. I was tired of in and out of jail. I was tired just of the lifestyle. All night not sleeping, not eating, not taking care of myself. And I was just tired of running. And I had sat down in my cell and I had made a plan that for me, and I figured that for me to get clean, I had to let go of all of those friends. I had to let go of everything that was causing me to use and giving, well, I should say, giving me that excuse to use. So I stopped hanging out with those people. I stopped hanging around certain areas. I changed my phone number. I changed where I live. I did a lot of things, and I took part in um, it's a special program they have in the court system. So I participated in that program, which really, really helped me, and it reduced my charges. And yeah, I've been clean ever since then. So I decided to do that hard work. And even it was painful, and it still is till this day with 10 years of sobriety. I still struggle some days. Some days I still want to drink. Some days I still want to go back to those unhealthy mechanisms, but I don't.
When are the times you find yourself wanting to go back to drinking?
Um, Stressful things like um, let's see. It hasn't really happened. So the holidays are a big trigger for me. Like last night, New Year's Eve, my friend was drinking, but I chose not to. I can be around the drinking and not do it. But there is that. I was like, oh, I can make. I've been clean for so long. I still have that little bit of a pattern of I can just drink a little bit. It's not going to be a problem. I've had 10 years of sobriety, but I know better, and I've learned to know myself better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just have learned to play that tape out and just looking at the consequences and looking at my life. I have a home now. I have my own place. I have a full-time job. I have my daughters. I am happy, and I don't want to go back to that dark spot again in my life.
Yeah, that it's a very dark, and I call addiction a dark and lonely place to be.
It really is. And even when you are surrounded by all of your friends and people you hang out with, it is still so lonely. I would remember feeling so still lonely. And I could be in a room with 50 other people and just, God, you know, why do I not feel so fulfilled? I've got friends. I thought I was happy, you know, because the drugs and alcohol numb us temporarily from what's really going on. But yeah, I came to that realization I wasn't happy. I was running from the pain and the past and repressing things, and you know, and I figured if I really want to be happy and I want to stop going to jail, I want to stop using, I have to make all the hard changes.
It's not easy.
No, it's not. It's not, and it's still a struggle till this day. I mean, I'm not going to sit and lie to everybody and say, "Oh, once you're clean and sober, it's all bright and shiny." No, really, it's not. You know, you're going to have ups and downs. You know, but I have majority good, way more better days than bad days. And being sober, I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful that I took that leap of faith and did it. You know, and I want that for everybody who's struggling. You know, because I want everybody to feel the true happiness that's out there. So that's why I became a moderator in one of the Facebook groups, which I'm not anymore because we all had a little bit of a difference of opinion. But I still am advocating for my community out here now.
That's a good thing. Helping others keeps us sober.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting out of myself, definitely. That's the other part that keeps me sober, is getting out of myself to help give somebody a hand out, or a hand up, you know, and just say, hey, I did it. I was using for many years and you can do it too. You know, it's all possible. It's never too late.
So do you have any types of tips or tricks that you do to help yourself along with your day and staying sober?
I have to say working is my therapy. I work 40 hours a week and it helps me definitely keep a distraction from, you know, especially when I'm having a bad day, it definitely helps that distraction of not wanting to use. I do, at the beginning, I did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of meditation. Um, let's see. I used Antabuse and Vivitrol for a while. That really helped as well to help me stay off the drinking. Um, and being on probation, the accountability really helped me. Not that everybody needs to be on probation to get clean, but having someone hold you accountable as well helps. I think helps. It helped me definitely to have somebody say, hey, what's going on here? You look like you're having a bad day. Having that support of people around me. And yeah, I think that's about all I did. And I took medication for depression for a while. But now I don't take it anymore because I don't feel like I need it.
So you're medication free?
I am. I still take my Vivitrol shot though. But other than that, I'm medication free.
Vivitrol is where you get sick if you drink, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also it helps a lot.
Have you ever drank on it?
No. I was in jail with somebody who did, and they were violently ill when they got booked. I was like, I don't ever want to experience that. Because I did violate one time on probation this last time because I didn't report for a UA, so I had to go back to jail for that. And I watched her because I thought about it. I was like, when I get out, I'm just going to start drinking again. And watching her just struggle and puke from drinking on the Vivitrol, that kind of was like a reminder of like, nope, you don't want to go back down that road. There was that natural rebel in me of, well, you're gonna throw me in jail, you might as well do it for a reason.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the Vivitrol keeps me going, and like I said, stepping outside of myself and helping my community has helped me as well.
What other kind of things do you do to help the community?
So I am friends with people who do outreach for our unsheltered population here in Salt Lake. We've been on the news, I'm sure. I don't know if you guys see it where you're at, but we have a real problem here with our homeless in Salt Lake City. And a good majority of our homeless are addicted for, you know, good reason. Well, it's not always a good reason, but yeah. So I go out and I go with my friend who runs an organization, and we give out clothes and food and support. We give somebody a listening ear who needs someone to talk to. Because I know I needed that. when I was trying to recover. And we've gotten people into treatment and got them help. You know, because just for us, just listening, I've had people tell me, "Hey, thanks for listening. That's what I needed. I needed someone who understood, so now I can help myself." So, yeah.
It's awesome, man. You really come a long way, it sounds like.
Yeah, I really have, and I'm really, really super proud of myself.
You should be.
Thank you.
So, getting towards the end here, I got some tips and tricks from you, but did you have any other types of advice for people that are listening to you right now?
Um, my first advice is reach out to somebody, whether it's call a crisis line, getting a meeting, um, calling your therapist if that's an option. Um, honestly, it's just the one thing I can really suggest is just reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. There are people who really care, and there are really people who want to help you and to help yourself. You know, and yeah, that is like one piece of advice I would give. Do not ever be afraid to reach out. Don't be ashamed. Don't be any of that, because there are people that really, really, really do care. And you are worth it. You know, if you are struggling and you are listening to this, know that you are worth the help and that your life is worth saving. And, you know, you're still here and you're listening to this, it's not too late. So when your heart still beating, you still have purpose. That's how I look at those things.
Well, that's a great outlook on life. Did you have anything else you want to chat about before we head off?
No, I think I shared just about everything.
All right, it's
Yeah,
awesome. Like I said,
yeah, that's the only other piece of advice I have is just keep going. You know, I heard, and there's one thing I would share. I had a therapist tell me one time, there's good, bad, and ugly. She goes, I don't really like labels, but um, it was basically saying that we all do things to cope, you know, and they get us through another day. And it's okay to survive. If you need to use to get through another day, great, you know, but how do I word this? Just trying to move yourself to a better place is effort. You know, even cutting down on your use, cutting down on your drinking is an effort. You know, that's slowly going to get you to where you want to be. You want to be clean, you're going to get there. Even if you have to take it slowly, if you mess up, it's okay. You can keep going, you know? So, yeah, that was the other thing. So I've had people say, well, I relapsed. Okay. So that could be a good thing. The bad thing and ugly thing is that you died, but you're still here. So you made a mistake and you're going to keep going. You know, you want to keep being clean, keep trying, keep going, because it will happen for you. You know, it took me, I don't know how many relapses of, I'm going to try when I get out of jail, it's going to be different. Nope, same night. You know, and I just kept persisting, keep trying, and it's going to work and it's going to work out for you. And the also one thing that I really like to tell people is that not one recovery method fits everybody. AA did not work for me. It works for many. I had to get traditional treatment for myself, and a lot of other people do too. There are so many different ways to recover. Not one is correct, and not one's better than the other. It's just what works for you. Try and find what works for you, and that's it.
well, I think you got some great advice packed in there. All right, so do me a favor and sit tight for a minute. Going to wrap this up for us. I really want to first, before I do that, say thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story.
Yeah, no, it really means a lot. So like I said, sit tight for a minute. And for everybody watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like. Also subscribe to see when we upload new videos. You could check us out on all social media. We're on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and TikTok. You can also check us out on our website, which is www.addicts-anonymous.com. There you'll find plenty of free resources and literature. So that's all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the interview. And until next time.